3 goals conceded in 15 games. Let that sink in for a second. Arsenal aren't just winning matches right now, they're suffocating the life out of opponents before they even get started. But here's the thing everyone's missing while they're busy talking about Saliba and Gabriel at the back, or Saka tearing down the right wing. The real story, the secret sauce behind Arsenal's dominance this season, is happening right in the middle of the park. Because while the world watches the goals and the clean sheets, Arsenal's midfield has quietly become the most complete, most terrifying engine room in European football. And if you don't believe me, just ask the teams who've tried to play through them this season. Spoiler alert, they couldn't. Right now. Arsenal sit at the top of the Premier League with a 4-point cushion. They've just equalled a club record that hasn't been touched in over a century, 8 straight clean sheets. They're making the Emirates feel like a fortress again, the kind of place where opponents arrive knowing they're in for a battle, not a football match. At home in the Champions League, teams aren't just failing to win, they can't even score. It's gotten to the point where getting a shot against Arsenal feels like an achievement. A goal? That's basically a trophy. But let's be real for a second. Defence wins you titles. We've heard that 1,000 times. Sir Alex Ferguson said it. Jose Mourinho built an empire on it. And right now, Arsenal have the best defensive record in Europe. But you know what actually makes that defence work? What allows Saliba and Gabriel to dominate without breaking a sweat? What gives Raya the confidence to play out from the back like he's got all the time in the world? It's the midfield. And not just any midfield. We're talking about a perfectly balanced, tactically flawless, physically dominant trio that does everything. They press, they recycle, they create, they destroy, and most importantly, they control the game like a conductor controls an orchestra. Declan Rice, Martin Zubimendi and Eberechi Eze. 3 players, 3 completely different skill sets, 1 absolutely lethal combination. Let's start with the man who makes it all possible, Declan Rice. And I'm not talking about the Declan Rice who sat deep at West Ham, mopping up danger and launching long balls. I'm talking about the evolved, box-to-box, goal-scoring, assist-making, set-piece delivering monster that Mikel Arteta has unleashed this season. Here's a stat that'll blow your mind. Since Zubimendi arrived, Rice has been pushed further up the pitch, playing as a number 8. And the result? He's gone from being Arsenal's shield to being their sword last season. He racked up 4 goals and 7 assists. This season, he's on pace to smash those numbers. But it's not just about the stats, it's about what he's doing on the pitch. Remember that game against Brentford? Rice picked up the ball in his own half. And within seconds, he was sprinting up the field like a man possessed. No hesitation, no wasted touches, just pure calculated aggression. He drew in 3 defenders, calmly slipped the ball to Partey, and boom, goal. That's not a defensive midfielder, that's a complete footballer. And here's the crazy part. Rice's carries, his ability to just pick up the ball and drive forward, remind people of Yaya Touré. You know, the guy who used to glide through entire teams like they weren't even there. Rice even asked Touré about his famous solo goal against Aston Villa back in 2014. Touré's response? Basically, yeah, I could have done that more, but I chose my moments. And that's exactly what Rice is doing now. He's not just running forward every chance he gets. He's picking his moments, reading the game, and when that window opens, he explodes through it. But let's talk about the other side of his game, because this is where Rice separates himself from every other midfielder in the league. Defensively, he's still an absolute monster against Newcastle, one of the most physical midfields in the Premier League. Rice was everywhere. He touched the ball more than anyone else on the pitch, 75 passes completed, 35 of them into the final third. He broke the defensive line 17 times, he delivered 10 crosses, he made 29 carries with the ball, and defensively, 3 chances created, won the ball back 5 times, made 3 tackles, and covered more ground than any other Arsenal player, 11.3 kilometres, in one match. His touch map from that game looked like someone had spilled paint across the entire pitch. From box to box, left to right, Rice was involved in everything. And here's the kicker. In the 98th minute, deep into stoppage time, Harvey Barnes, fresh off the bench, chased a long ball behind Arsenal's defence Rice, who had been running for 98 minutes, matched him stride for stride, then used his strength to bully him off the ball. That's not just talent. That's an unreal level of stamina and determination. Did you know that since joining Arsenal in 2023, Declan Rice has the most set-piece assists in the Premier League? And in that same period, Arsenal have scored more goals from set-pieces than any other team. People love to mock Arsenal for being set-piece FC, but you know what? It works. And Rice is the one delivering those inch-perfect corners and free kicks that turn dead ball situations into guaranteed goal-scoring opportunities. But here's what really makes Rice special. He's not just a destroyer or a creator, he's both. And in the modern game, that's almost impossible to find. He can sit deep and shield the defence, or he can push forward and join the attack. He can deliver a killer pass, or he can drive 50 yards with the ball at his feet. He's the engine, the protector and the conductor all rolled into one. And without him, this Arsenal team doesn't function. Now, let's talk about the man who unlocked Rice's full potential, Martin Zubimendi. When Arsenal signed him, most people outside of Spain had no idea who he was. No big club experience, no fanfare, just a young Spanish midfielder arriving quietly at a club that desperately needed stability in the middle of the park. And that's exactly what he brought. Stability. Zubimendi doesn't chase headlines. He doesn't score screamers or make highlight reel tackles. What he does is something far more valuable. He's always available, always in the right position, always offering that safe angle under pressure. When Arsenal are being pressed high, when the trap is closing, Zubimendi is the one who turns on one touch, finds the forward's feet and keeps the ball moving. He's the tempo setter, the metronome, the guy who drops deep between the centre-backs, demands the ball with calm authority, and then, with one quick turn and one perfect forward pass, starts an entire attacking wave. And here's a stat that proves it. Zubimendi ranks 4th in forward passes among all Arsenal players in the Premier League this season. But if you remove the goalkeeper and centre-backs, he's 1st. That tells you everything about his influence. For a team that attacks 29% of the time through the central channels, Zubimendi is the heartbeat. He's the one who starts every attack, every rhythm, every wave of pressure. And because he's so reliable, because he's always there to cover, Rice gets the freedom to push forward without worrying about leaving the defence exposed. Think about it like this. Before Zubimendi arrived, Rice had to do everything. He had to shield the defence, recycle possession, and try to contribute in attack. It was too much for one player, no matter how good he is. But now, with Zubimendi holding down the fort, Rice can pick his moments. He can make those lung-busting runs into the box, he can drive forward with the ball. He can press high and win the ball back in dangerous areas. And when he does, Zubimendi is always there, covering the space, keeping the shape, making sure Arsenal don't get caught on the counter. It's a partnership that just works. Rice is the dynamism, Zubimendi is the control. And together, they've turned Arsenal's midfield into the most balanced, most complete unit in the Premier League. And then there's the creative hub, the conductor, the guy who makes everything tick in the final third. Now, for the start of this season, that's been Martin ØDEGAARD, the captain, the creator, the left-footed magician who operates on the right side of Arsenal's attack like he's playing a different game to everyone else. ØDEGAARD isn't your traditional number 10. He doesn't just sit in the hole and wait for the ball to come to him. He's constantly moving, constantly scanning, constantly finding pockets of space that shouldn't exist. And because he's left-footed, he loves cutting inside from the right, either to shoot or to thread those passes between defenders that make you rewind the footage just to see how he saw it in the first place. His link-up play with Saka has been one of Arsenal's biggest weapons. It's telepathic. Saka makes a run, ØDEGAARD finds him, ØDEGAARD drifts inside, Saka overlaps. They combine in tight areas, they create overloads, and they constantly put defenders in impossible situations. Do you step to ØDEGAARD and leave Saka free? Or do you stick with Saka and let ØDEGAARD pick you apart? But here's where it gets interesting. ØDEGAARD's been dealing with injuries this season, and you'd think that would be a massive problem for Arsenal, right? Losing your captain, your main creator, the guy who orchestrates everything in the final third that should cripple a team, except it hasn't. And that's because Arsenal have Eberechi Eze. Now, Eze isn't a like-for-like replacement. He's not ØDEGAARD 2.0, but what he brings is something equally valuable, and in some ways, even more unpredictable. Where Ødegaard is calculated and precise, Eze is instinctive and explosive. Where Ødegaard picks the lock with a perfectly weighted pass, Eze kicks the door down with a moment of individual brilliance. Eze has that same ability to find space between the lines, that same vision, that same composure on the ball, but he adds an extra layer of directness that keeps defenders guessing. He's not afraid to take players on 1v1, he's not afraid to shoot from distance, and he's got this knack for arriving in the box at exactly the right moment to finish chances that other players wouldn't even see. What's scary is how seamlessly he's slotted into Arteta's system. The link up with Saka, still there. The overloads on the right, still happening. The ability to drift inside and create chaos, absolutely. Eze has taken the blueprint that Ødegaard created and added his own flavour to it. And the result is that Arsenal haven't missed a beat. In fact, you could argue that having both players gives Arteta a tactical advantage. When Ødegaard is fit, you get control and precision. When Eze plays, you get unpredictability and explosiveness. And when they're both available, Arteta can rotate them depending on the opponent. Need to break down a low block? Ødegaard's your man. Need someone to exploit space on the counter? Eze is the answer. And here's the kicker. Because Rice and Zubimendi are doing all the dirty work behind them, both Ødegaard and Eze get to focus purely on creation. They don't have to drop deep to help with the build-up. They don't have to track back and defend. They just get to do what they do best. Create chaos, unlock defences, and make Arsenal's attack one of the most dangerous in Europe. That's the depth Arteta has built. That's the luxury Arsenal now have. And that's why, even with injuries, they're still dominating. So now that we've broken down the individuals, let's talk about how this midfield actually functions as a unit, because this is where Arteta's tactical genius really shines. Arsenal's midfield operates on a simple principle: control the centre, dominate the transitions, and suffocate the opposition before they can even breathe. And they do it through a system that's both rigid and fluid at the same time. When Arsenal have the ball, they build up in a 3-2-3 shape. The back three, usually Saliba, Gabriel, and either Timber or Calafiori, provide the foundation. Rice and Zubimendi sit just ahead of them, forming the double pivot. And then you've got Eze, Saka, and the left winger, whether that's Martinelli or Trossard, creating the front line. But here's where it gets interesting. Arsenal's fullbacks don't stay wide, they invert. Calafiori, Timber, even young Lewis Skelly, they all tuck inside and join the midfield, creating numerical superiority in the centre of the park. This does two things. First, it gives Arsenal more passing options, making it almost impossible to press them effectively. And second, it allows the wingers to stay high and wide, pinning the opposition fullbacks and creating space in behind. And when Arsenal lose the ball, the transition is instant. Rice and Zubimendi immediately drop into a 4-4-2 defensive shape. The wingers tuck inside, cutting off passing lanes and forcing the opposition wide. The fullbacks slot back into the defensive line. And suddenly, Arsenal have 10 men behind the ball, compact, organised and ready to win it back. But it's not just about shape, it's about intensity. Arsenal press like maniacs. Eze leads from the front, constantly harassing centre-backs and forcing mistakes. Rice and Zubimendi cover every blade of grass, winning second balls and shutting down counter-attacks. And the wingers, they track back and help the fullbacks, making sure there's no space to exploit. And here's the stat that proves it. Arsenal have conceded only 3 goals in 15 Premier League games this season. That's the best defensive start in English football history. Better than Sir Alex Ferguson's Manchester United in 1992. Better than Jose Mourinho's Chelsea in 2004 to 2005. And a huge reason for that is the work rate and discipline of the midfield. Because here's the thing, defence doesn't start with the centre-backs, it starts with the press. And Arsenal's press is relentless. They don't give you time to think. They don't give you space to breathe. They just suffocate you, win the ball back, and then punish you on the counter. And when they do win the ball back, the transition is lightning fast. Rice drives forward, Zubimendi finds the pass, Eze releases Saka or Martinelli. And suddenly, Arsenal are in your box with 5 attackers and you've got no time to recover. It's a system that's built on balance. Rice provides the dynamism, Zubimendi provides the control, Eze provides the creativity. and together they make Arsenal's midfield the most complete in Europe. But let's talk about something that doesn't get enough credit. Arsenal's midfield isn't just technically brilliant, they're physically dominant. Rice is 6 feet tall and built like a tank. He wins every 50-50, he bullies opponents off the ball, he covers more ground than anyone else on the pitch, and in the air, he's a monster. Whether it's defending set pieces or attacking them, Rice is always there, winning headers and clearing danger. Zubimendi might not be as physically imposing, but he's smart. He uses his body to shield the ball. He's always half a step ahead, positioning himself to cut off passing lanes and intercept balls before they even reach their target. And Eze, for all his technical brilliance, is tougher than he looks. He doesn't shy away from tackles, he doesn't get bullied off the ball, and he's constantly pressing, constantly harassing, constantly making life difficult for the opposition. But the physical dominance doesn't stop there. Arsenal's entire team is built to be strong, tall and aggressive. Saliba and Gabriel are monsters in the air. Timber and Calafiori are quick and powerful. Even the attackers, guys like Havertz and Gyökeres when he's fit, they're all physical specimens. And it shows. Arsenal dominate in the air. They win second balls. They press with intensity, and they make it almost impossible for teams to play through them. Now, we can't talk about Arsenal's midfield without talking about set pieces, because this is where Arsenal have turned a weakness into a weapon. Under Nicolás Jover, Arsenal's set-piece coach, dead ball situations have become one of their biggest strengths. And the numbers back it up. Nearly 70% of Arsenal's goals this season have come from set pieces. 70%. That's insane. And it's not just about having tall players, it's about the choreography, the movement, the precision. Jover has built a system based on 5 principles: orientation, disruption, misdirection, isolation, and framing. Orientation means positioning attackers where defenders can't see both them and the ball at the same time. Disruption means blocking defenders and keeping the goalkeeper from reaching the ball. Misdirection means making decoy runs to pull defenders away from the real target. Isolation means creating one-on-one situations for Arsenal's most dangerous players. And framing means having multiple players ready to attack from different spots across the goal. And it works. Gabriel has been a monster from set pieces. Saliba too. Even Rice gets involved, either delivering the ball or attacking the back post. And when you combine that with Arsenal's technical quality and physical dominance, it's almost impossible to defend. Did you know that this season 1 in 5 goals in the Premier League have come from corners? That's the highest rate ever. And no team does it better than Arsenal. But here's the thing. Arsenal have done all of this while dealing with a massive injury crisis. Gyökeres, Havertz, ØDEGAARD, Martinelli, Madueke, Jesus, all of them have missed significant time this season. And yet, Arsenal have kept winning. They've kept clean sheets. They've stayed at the top of the table. And a huge reason for that is the depth in midfield. When ØDEGAARD was out, Eze stepped in and barely missed a beat. When Rice needed a rest, Norgård came in and did the job. When Zubimendi needed cover, Nwaneri was there. Arteta has built a squad where every position has 2, sometimes 3, quality options. And that depth is going to be crucial as the season goes on, especially with the fixture congestion and the physical demands of competing on multiple fronts. So what's next for Arsenal? Well, the fixtures are about to get brutal. 3 consecutive London derbies, Tottenham at home, Chelsea away, Brentford away. These are the games that will define Arsenal's season. Tottenham are one of the highest scoring teams in the league. Chelsea are pushing for the title. Brentford are dangerous at home. And Arsenal haven't kept a clean sheet in the last 7 North London derbies at the Emirates. They've only kept 2 clean sheets in their last 7 games at Stamford Bridge. But here's the thing. This Arsenal team is different. They're not the same team that used to crumble under pressure. They're not the same team that used to bottle it in big moments. They've got the mentality now. They've got the structure. They've got the midfield. And if they can navigate this run of fixtures, if they can keep the clean sheets going, if they can keep winning, then there's no reason they can't go all the way. Manchester City are only 4 points behind, and they've got easier fixtures coming up. But Arsenal have the advantage. They're at the top. They've got the momentum. And most importantly, they've got the best midfield in the league. So here's the bottom line. Arsenal's success this season isn't just about Saliba and Gabriel at the back. It's not just about Saka tearing teams apart on the wing. It's not even just about the clean sheets and the set pieces. It's about the midfield. Rice, Zubimendi and Eze. 3 players who do everything. They press, they create, they destroy, they control. They're the engine that makes this entire team work. And if Arsenal are going to win the Premier League this season, if they're going to break Chelsea's defensive record, if they're going to finally end that 2-decade title drought, it is going to be because of them. Because while everyone else is watching the goals and the clean sheets, Arsenal's midfield is quietly shaping Arteta's billion-dollar team into the most complete, most dominant force in English football. And trust me, the rest of the league is starting to notice. So, what do you think? Is Arsenal going to win the league or not? If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe because we've got more tactical deep dives coming your way. See you in the next one.